Namaskar and welcome to NFL Masala. I'm your co-host Anant.
And I'm here, the co-host Rakshak. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 8 of NFL Masala, where we talk about all the latest happenings in the NFL with a little bit of spice.
So today we are going to be discussing the NFC West division now after some Tamakidar news. So let's get started, shall we? First bit of news, Quandre Diggs, the safety from Seattle previously, who is a free agent, just signed with the Tennessee Titans on a one-year deal worth up to $5 million. And he's going to also team up with another former Seattle Seahawks teammate. Stop me if you haven't heard this name, Jamal Adams in Tennessee. So Tennessee basically said, okay, somehow the Seahawks safety duo is actually good, so we'll get both of them. So they got both Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs. And they will compete. So he will compete with Elijah Molden to start next to Amani Hooker. So they have a lot of safeties, which we will get into in the AFC South breakdown. But yeah, I think it's a good depth piece. It's just a one-year deal. You know, if he does improve, if he provides the depth that they need, then that's well and good. They're in a competitive division. They definitely have the chance to make the playoffs if they're good and if they're consistent. So we'll see.
Wild card tops. Yep. And with that being next, we do have the next set of Damakidar news that we definitely need to talk about. This brings out with a Mr. Tyreek Hill of the Miami Dolphins. According to Marcel Louis-Jacques, ESPN staff writer, and Mr. Adam Schefter, and sources that told Adam Schefter, the Dolphins have agreed to restructure the contract with Tyreek Hill. They'll keep him among the highest paid skill positions in the NFL. This is according to ESPN. The restructured contract is worth $90 million over the next 3 years, with $65 million of it guaranteed.
Damn.
No new years were added to the 4-year, $120 million extension Hill signed with the team in 2023. But the $106.5 million in updated, fully guaranteed money is the most ever for a wide receiver. And by the way, this deal was negotiated by Drew Rosenhaus and Jason Rosenhaus.
Gotcha.
Where have you heard those names before?
Is that from Jalen? No, that's not Jalen Hurts. They're a famous agent duo, right?
They are a great free agency, great agents duos. And I believe, I mean, if we were to look up his Wikipedia page, he's represented no more than 170 players in his entire thing. I mean, that's just insane.
Yeah, I mean, Tyreek Hill definitely deserves that extension, but Miami paying Tua, paying Jalen Waddle, paying Tyreek Hill, man, what are they going to do if they don't make the Super Bowl in this window?
Man, it's going to be really, really tough, and Hill may want out.
Exactly.
And before we continue on with some other breaking news, I want to give a special shout out to Team USA of the Olympics, bagging 3 gold medals today in track and field. Tamara Hill Woodhull, also Grant Calloway in the men's 110 hurdles, and Sydney McLaughlin, who broke a world record in the 400 meter hurdles. And don't forget, and oh my God, a nail biter in the Team USA beating Serbia 95-91 to get to the game medal. Steph Curry is in another level.
Yep. Yeah, I think that brings it up to 101 total medals and 29 gold medals for those Eurocentric idiots out there who want to only complain about gold medals. Yeah, we're winning in both.
Yeah, we're winning it both.
Alrighty. Well, up next we have, unfortunately, some Kachada news here. Puka Nacua is now week to week with a knee injury. He's the standout star wide receiver from the LA Rams, is now considered week to week after he sustained a knee injury on Sunday in practice. It was at a team drill, but someone some source has described it as not serious. So we'll see exactly what it is closer to the start of the actual season. But yeah, this is a bad training camp for the Rams because this is the latest injury in which they've had a string of starting caliber players injuries. 3/5 of their entire offensive line is injured. Right tackle Rob Havenstein, who has an ankle injury, left guard Jonah Jackson, shoulder injury, both considered week to week, and left tackle Alaric Jackson is also dealing with an ankle injury, and cornerback Darius Williams has a hamstring strain. So this,
What the
it's like the
hell?
injury bug has left the Chargers and attached itself to the
It's
Rams
still in
since they
LA.
go to the same facility.
It's still in LA, man.
Yeah, exactly.
And speaking of injuries, I'm gonna brief this really quickly. We did get breaking Damakidar news again. Shout out to Mr. Abhishek Ramani and Abhishek. If you are listening to this, or if you're even watching the podcast, as co-host of NFL Masala and Anand, with both of our powers combined, or the powers that be, we are officially naming Abhishek our
Ambassador. He is our
ambassador.
ambassador.
He's our official ambassador and our version of Adam Schefter and
Yes.
Ian Rappaport.
Yes.
So by the way, so that's why Abhishek, if you're hearing this, you've been promoted to full time. You're not working part time anymore, man.
Exactly.
Anyways, back to the actual news. According to Mark Raimondi of ESPN today, the Falcons have placed Rondale Moore on a reserve injured list Thursday. Season-ending knee injury. Unfortunately, he was carted off in field during a joint practice Wednesday with the Dolphins and Aircast, and he's been taken to a medical facility. It happened on a passing play. Penix Jr. tried to hit Josh Ali on the right side of the end zone during 11-on-11s. Incomplete, inconsequential, but then Moore fell down and all that. So it's a tough break. I really feel for the kid. You just hate injuries. And continuing on, and the second bit of quick news, the Saints did got an extension done. They signed linebacker Pete Werner, that's Werner, to a 3-year, $25 million plus extension. Sources told Adam Schefter today. Deal is worth $17.5 million in guaranteed money. It ties Werner to the Saints through the 2027 season. And they did host Justin Simmons for a visit on Wednesday. And they had about $14 million in available cap space for the 2024 season prior to the move. So, I mean, pretty good so far with that. And last but not least, we got to talk about it. We have to talk about it, which is why I have to bring this out with me. It was announced today via Instagram and Twitter, and of course with the Philadelphia Eagles. The legend, Eagles legend and future Pro Football Hall of Famer who will be enshrined in Canton, Ohio,
Alrighty.
and Super Bowl winning quarterback who
Okay.
upstaged Tom Brady with a trick play, Mr. Big D Nick Foles. He will officially retire with the Philadelphia Eagles during the home opener September 16th against the Atlanta Falcons. He said this: I am incredibly grateful for the opportunity to retire as an Eagle. The city of brotherly love has always felt like home to me as an NFL player. Philadelphia is a city I truly love, and it has been an honor to wear the Eagles jersey. He has played for 6 teams over 11 seasons in the NFL after being drafted by the Eagles in the 3rd round of the 2012 draft. 2012 draft. Oh my God. 2012 draft. I can't speak today.
You're that excited.
He stepped on a starting position with the Eagles in 2017 after Carson Wentz had that torn ACL against the Rams. And we all know how it ended. Led us to the Super Bowl, which is why I'm wearing one of the very few Eagles memorabilia. Now, I think it's the very first one I've had. Against the Patriots. He threw for 3 touchdowns against Brady, and also the best quote ever. You want Philly, Philly? Yeah, go for it. All right, Philly special, and which is why there is a statue outside Lincoln Financial Field. Nick Foles, I salute you, my man. Thank you for bringing a ring and saving America, the dread that is the New England Patriots. I
That
salute
is
you,
true.
sir.
That is true. America's greatest soldier, Nick Foles. Alrighty. So that's gonna conclude the Makidar news for this episode for us. Let's get started with the preview of the NFC West division, starting with the least successful team of the division last year, the
Yep.
Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not much to recap from last season. Honestly, it's just an abomination of a season.
Wait, how about this? I got a quiz for you. Can you
Okay.
sum up their season in one sentence?
Dog shit.
I said one sentence, not one word though. But
Hey,
to quote
a word
Dennis
can be a
Abhishek
sentence.
Ramani, dog shit.
Exactly. It was. Kyler Murray was injured for the first 9 weeks of the season, and that's why with Joshua Dobbs, the astronaut, they went 1-8. Yeah, it was not good. Defense was terrible.
But hey, that 1-1 was against the Cowboys, even better.
There we go. And I'll get into why they won against the Cowboys. So it wasn't the defense that helped them win that game. That's for damn sure. 31st in overall DVOA, 31st in passing DVOA, and 31st in rushing DVOA. So they were basically the second to last on both in basically every facet of the game. Pass rush was terrible. Rushing defense was terrible. It was just an overall horrific defense to watch. But that was not because of the coaching, more because of the personnel that they had. They did not have anybody. There was no pass rush up the middle. Linebackers were weak. Secondary was underwhelming to say the least. And this was the result of years and years and years of neglect by the previous regimes of the Arizona Cardinals. And that's why, in terms of both drafted personnel and free agency personnel, they have failed. And it's going to be a massive rebuild to get back to the playoff caliber team that they were under Kurt Warner and Carson Palmer. So, yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about the offense. But yeah, go ahead.
But which begs the question: if they were so bad on defense, how the hell did the Eagles lose to them in the final game of the regular season?
Because the Cardinals actually had a run game. They actually had a run game. They were 9th in DVOA, but their running backs, James Conner, carried them 3rd in running back yardage and 4th in power success rate. So this basically was James Conner saying, I am going to get this team across the line as much as I possibly can. So they use a diversity of run schemes as well, inside zone, outside zone, duo. But the thing with their specialty was not really their offensive line, but it was just a massive resurgence in James Conner. And I think Drew Petzing's scheme was very beneficial for them. Along with Kyler Murray's running ability, he, I believe, was top 15 or top 10 in terms of quarterbacks who gained the most amount of EPA by rushing. So in terms of EPA per dropback for quarterback rushing, Kyler Murray was top 15, top 10. So that aided massively in their run game. Now, the problem was they didn't have any wide receivers to throw to, and Kyler Murray was injured for the first half of the year. So when Kyler came back, the passing attack was okay. They used yards after catch a lot in their scheme, which is why they ended up being 15th in EPA per dropback, but completion percentage was not well. They had a lot of drops. It was just an overall disappointing passing attack, but that's also because of personnel. They didn't have any wide receivers. They had Trey McBride, breakout tight end, a really, really solid tight end. He had a really good season the first year, and then last year I think he was somewhat injured. But yeah, it's it was definitely a season that was marred because of injury. So let's see how they're planning on improving that this year. First, with free agents. So I talked about the defense and how the passing attack and the rushing attack was terrible. So what did the Cardinals do? Well, they went out and they got themselves some defensive players, starting with Sean Murphy Bunting, a really good outside corner from Tennessee who used to play for the Bucks and was actually on the 2020 Tampa Bay Bucks Super Bowl winning team. So yeah, he was recently signed to a 3-year, $25.5 million deal. And this is like top 30 in terms of average quarterback value. So I think it's a good value. He's just 27 years old, so this is going to be like his second or third contract. So that was a good signing. They also had, let's see, Jonah Williams. That was a big get for them to try and patch that right side of the offensive line. If you take a look at who they have on the offensive line right now, last year wasn't great in terms of. So they have Paris Johnson Jr., who was their last year draft pick. You have Evan Brown, Yalte Froholt, who's been a pretty decent center, Will Hernandez, who was a decent center, decent right guard for the Giants, and now Jonah Williams comes in to solidify that right tackle spot on a 2-year, $30 million deal. So that's pretty top of market deal. They also got Justin Jones. Now they needed help up the interior of the D line of the front seven. They basically needed help everyone on the defense, right? But they got Justin Jones, D tackle, 28 years old, out of Chicago on a 3-year, $31 million deal. They also got Mac Wilson, linebacker from the Patriots, who plays, I'm guessing, a little bit of weak side linebacker. So he's 26 years old. He's got a 3-year deal, $12.75 million. I think that's a pretty sizable deal for them, specifically because he can provide some help in the in pass coverage, which is where he's going to be helping a lot. And they are projecting him to be playing on the weak side, as we said. So the last one is Bilal Nichols, who's going to be defensive end from Las Vegas. 3 years, $21 million deal. Again, beefing up that D line to get some sort of pass rush presence in the opposing team's backfield. So they signed these free agents. In terms of extensions, not really anybody that's starting caliber, just a lot of depth pieces. But they did retain Zaven Collins on a 2-year, $14 million deal, and Keith Ismail on a 1-year, $1 million deal, backup guard. Now, these are all the players that they retained and they signed. So a lot, as you know, a lot of defensive help and a lot of offensive depth. So that's what they really targeted this year. And the reason why they did is because they let go of some key depth pieces. Marquise Hollywood Brown, wide receiver, goes to Kansas City. And we will talk about the wide receiver that they replaced Hollywood Brown with. Lekif Otu, defensive tackle, young guy, but he wasn't really productive for them. So he goes to the Jets as a depth piece, and a bunch of other depth pieces here as well. Now, who did they replace Hollywood Brown with? Rakshak.
Oh man,
The greatest wide receiver prospect we've seen since OBJ, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, maybe, like, probably even better
probably.
than them.
I think I would think so. I mean, it's kind of hard to pick because there are really good wide receivers, and this guy, you know what? I think, you know what? I could see him wearing the gold jacket in the future.
Hmm. The son of another gold jacket wearer, Marvin Harrison.
But here's my thing. I know a lot of people are getting mad at me right now for this. He can be wearing it, and he can also win a ring, but with a different team.
Ooh, okay. Shots fired. You don't think the Cardinals have it in them to win a
I don't
ring?
know, man. It's all. We'll talk about it later.
Alrighty. So, as we were saying, they drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. at number 4. There's a lot of speculation about who they're going to draft. Now, a lot of people wanted Marvin Harrison Jr., and everybody was saying, okay, just get Marvin Harrison Jr. We know the top 2 or at least the top 3 are going to be drafting quarterbacks. So you're going to have the pick of the litter in terms of the best overall player from the draft who is not a quarterback. And they basically needed anybody. They could have gone tackle. That I'm sure that would have helped. But to pass up a prospect like Marvin Harrison Jr., I think would have been the death knell of Monty Ossenfort, who's the recent GM that they just got last year at the end of last year. So Marvin Harrison Jr., Darius Robinson at the end of the first round with their second pick. That was a really good edge presence there. One that I really, really, really wanted for the Packers, and that's Max Melton, corner out of Rutgers. He is, of course, the brother of Packers wide receiver Bo Melton, and Max Melton would have been fantastic for our defense. But he is a good addition for this team, especially since they don't have any corner depth. They got 2 starting caliber corners now in Sean Murphy-Bunting and Max Melton, and they have Garrett Williams as their nickel corner. So the 2 outside corners, they got it on lock. They got Budda Baker as a free safety. So they're really, really building up this secondary, which is a smart thing to do here. Trey Benson, running back. He was a top running back prospect for me as well, because for the Packers, we needed a running back to replace Aaron Jones. He was one of the top prospects amongst Packer fandom. Another third round pick, Isaiah Adams, offensive tackle. And then this one was a surprising one. Tip Riemann, tight end in the 3rd round. So they had 4 third round picks, the Cardinals did. And I think they tied with another team, or I think they had the most amount of picks in this draft amongst any team. So you can really see that Monty Ossenfort was cooking with this draft. He was really building up the depth and getting a couple of starter pieces in the first, 3, potentially even 4 picks. So Tip Riemann, good blocking, athletic tight end. Elijah Jones, another depth corner in the 3rd round, at the end of the 3rd round. And then your guy from Texas Tech. Talk about him. What made him so
Adrian
special?
Taylor Demerson. Although he may sound like a bit undersized, he plays a really strong box safety. He's played a lot of box safety back at Texas Tech, more like on the strong safety side. He can also play nickel as well. He is a thumper.
Mm-hmm.
In defense, what we call a thumper is someone who can lay a hit. He's okay with coverage. I mean, he was basically like their best corner, Texas Tech's best corner, or defensive back, like especially when it came to like creating turnovers, catching interceptions, and all that. He just needs to be in the right set of scheme. But he is definitely a future long-term starter, but definitely great on special teams. That's what I could say for sure. But I was really hoping that the Eagles would have gotten him, because it would have had paired him up with my other boy from Texas Tech, Zach McPherson, who's fighting for a roster spot. But damn, that was a good one by the Cardinals. Although a bit undersized, if that's what they're looking for, but if he can play, but he loves to play, that's for sure.
Yeah, and that was their that was their motto. Honestly, in this defense, in this draft, that was their motto. They got undersized corners and secondary players. Max Melton, 5'11", 193, not exactly undersized for the position, but he's not 6'1", 200, right? So Max Melton, Elijah Jones, who's the corner that they got. He's 6'2", but he's 184. Again, a little bit, lower on the size spectrum. So at last, they got Xavier Thomas, 5th round. Christian Jones, offensive tackle, out of the in the 5th round, out of UT. Decent pass blocker. Got some, good agility. He's on the older side. He's got a good size, but in the depth, in the amount of with the depth of offensive line talent that there was in this draft, it makes sense why he went into the 5th round, at the end of the 5th round. Tejon Palmer, wide receiver, in the 6th round, and Jaden Davis, again, another corner out of Miami. So they got 4 secondary players just from this draft, plus another secondary player that they got in free agency. So you can really see Monty Ossenfort was like, okay, our pass defense sucked because our corners and our secondary depth was not good besides Budda Baker. So what do? We just get every corner we possibly could. So that was good on them. And I think they've made some very good moves. I think they're going to be better than last year, but not much better. Some improvement in the offense with the healthy Kyler for a full season, and definitely an improvement in the pass defense with the new additions. But I think besides that, they're not a franchise caliber team or playoff caliber team. We just haven't seen enough from Kyler, at least in the past 2 years, to remain healthy for an entire full season. And if he's not healthy for an entire full season, they're definitely not making the playoffs. If he is, maybe if everything goes well, if the defense gets better if at least the pass defense can be, top 20, then it's workable. They could get into the wild card, but I don't think it's going to be that great. So I think a 7-10 record is what I'm projecting for the Arizona Cardinals. Again, next year with a couple more pieces in terms of pass rush, some D-line depth, some more weapons for Kyler, and a little bit more offensive line depth. I think that's going to help them exceed next year, but not this upcoming year.
I think that's definitely fair enough. Great analysis is always done on, and it all depends upon. And I have to say, the person that I feel is going to be more important now is going to be Kyler Murray. Is he going to be healthy or not? That's what I think.
Exactly. So I think ending off Shandar Player of the Year, it's got to be MHJ. I think he's going to have a fantastic year. They're going to manufacture targets for him. And even if he is covered, he is going to find a way to get open, or he's just going to have that presence and the ability to just jump over corners because he's 6'4", 205. And he has the athletic ability to use that frame for his advantage, like Mike Evans does. So yeah, the fact that they got him, he's going to be a fantastic player, both in real life and in fantasy.
And it should come with a label warning, like how you have like toys saying like watch out for choking hazards, watch out for broken ankles that your team has corners facing or defensive backs facing against Marvin Harrison Jr. He is going to make a fool out of you. And you know what? I think he hits 1,000 receiving yards this year.
Oh, easy. I think he hits 1,250, 1,300.
1,300?
1,310. 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns. That's what I mean.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Imagine if he pulls it off against the Niners and he
please steal some victories from the Niners.
Oh my! I will be laughing. Pardon my French, my ass off, everyone. All right. With that being said, we move on to our next opponent, the Los Angeles Rams. This is a very interesting case because all I could say, it was bits of ups, bits of downs. But you kind of finished strong with a 10-8 record, and you suffered a close wildcard game loss to the Detroit Lions. And how can I pile this up? Series of injuries and the resilience and the emergence of the wide receiver duo that the NFL never knew we needed, but we got them. Puka. Does that sound right? Yeah. Goodness, it's so good because Tutu Atwell and Puka Nakua. Though the way that those two have emerged, it now shows that Matt Stafford doesn't need Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee to win games. I mean, if you want to talk about it more in details, they started off with a 3-6 record and finished with a 7-1 run to make it to a wild card spot. So that is just insane. But there were a couple of I mean, they had to deal with the multiple coaching changes. First, you had their offensive coordinator Liam Cohen to University of Kentucky as a new offensive coordinator. You had to rely on on so on another offensive coordinator who's now with the Falcons, and you bring back Liam Cohen this year. So it was a bit of a switcheroo. But if you want to talk more about what could have been some of the many issues with the LA Rams, you take a look at their they were 17th in ranked total DVOA. I mean, the offensive wise, they were 12.2%, which is number 7th in offensive ranked DVOA. But defensive DVOA, they were 3.4, which is 22, which is not bad. But apparently, they were. By the way, they were dead last in special teams. They are dead last in special teams, which was a complete shock for me. And I'm like, sometimes why are the Rams missing some games and like missing some really close, hard-fought games? But I decided to take a look at this a little bit more. Even when Aaron Donald playing at a stellar level, the Rams had, according to Fox Sports stats, I just looked this up. The Rams are 20th in total defense. Like, they've allowed 337.9 defensive yards average, and the playoff average was 415.3. I mean, you take a look at at that Lions game, it allowed, and they allowed 46 touchdowns, which is insane. And if you want to break this down even more, they've allowed 231.1 passing yards allowed per game, and 24 passing touchdowns. So that's I mean, then again, you had to come with the fact that they had a ton of injuries, especially in the back on the defensive backside as well. But with that being said, the Rams made a ton of changes, especially in the offseason. And with that, let's go through some of the bigger names. I think, as Anant mentioned earlier before, Jonah Jackson, guard from the Detroit Lions, he signs with the Rams on a 3-year, $51 million contract, but he is injured. You also take a look at Kobe Parkinson. Remember, if those that know him, he was a Seahawk, 3-year, 22.5 with the Rams. He's signed. He's signed for that much. Darius Williams, corner from Jags, another 3-year, 22.5. How much money does Stan Kroenke have? I want to know. But then they also got some small one-day contracts, 1-year contracts, which I thought was good, like getting Tre'Davious White to be that veteran corner for corner mentor from the Bills to the Rams. Then also getting safety Cam Curl from the Commanders for 1 year, and of course Jimmy Garoppolo, what a legend he is. And this one kind of hurt me the most. They took the giant killer Boston Scott from the Eagles to the Rams for a 1-year deal. So I mean, it was a bit. It really bit me. But some of the extensions, which I thought was really good, they did sign their guard Kevin Dotson to a 3-year, $48 million extension on March 7th. And Demarcus Robinson, he signed a 1-year extension for $4 million.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was something, but I'm still sad about Boston Scott leaving. We won't get to see him. We won't get to see a death taxes and Boston Scott killing the Giants every time. But at the Rams,
I think the Rams do play.
Oh, the giant killer may strike again.
Exactly.
But then we have to talk about some of the losses that they've had. I mean, some of the players out. But with that, we already know one player who is going to be inducted into Canton pretty damn soon. Aaron Donald announcing his retirement. He deserves it, and I'm giving him a salute right there. But those that left the Rams, I'm only going to talk about very few of them. Jordan Fuller, 1-year deal with the Panthers. I mean, there wasn't a lot except for Jordan Fuller, Carson Wentz now being a backup for the Chiefs. Jonah Williams, defensive end to the Vikings, and Austin Trammell, Brian Allen. I mean, these are like just like unknown players, more like depth pieces. They're probably not going to make it to a 53-man, but it's there. So just to make a long story short, there hasn't been that much, but the Rams did make a few coaching changes. For example, you take a look at Raheem Morris, their defensive coordinator. He's got to the Falcons, and guess who he stole along? He took Zach Robinson, the QB pass game coach, as the Falcons offensive coordinator.
That was a key selection for the Falcons, and I think that's going to be a big loss for the Rams. Because I mean, you have Sean McVay as the head coach and play caller and all that, and he's offensive genius. But Zach Robinson really helped to revitalize that pass game with Matt Stafford, especially since he was the QB coach.
And I mean, and currently looking at their offensive coaches, their offensive coordinator is Mike LaFleur, apparently. So
brother of Matt LaFleur,
who is also part of the Shanahan, technically
the Shanahan tree, technically.
Shanahan tree. And also a new defensive coordinator comes into play. LB pass rush corner coach Chris Shula. Chris Shula, those that don't know who Chris Shula is.
Yep.
He is the son of Dave Shula, who is the grandson of the famous Don Shula. Don Shula, by the way, is a legendary coach. He was responsible for leading the Miami Dolphins
1972,
the undefeated team, and
fully undefeated throughout the entire season and postseason to win the Super Bowl.
Correction on that. Thank you very much.
No, you're good. You're good.
No, this is why I have you. And also, I mean, inside linebackers, I did see Greg Williams getting a job still. And senior defensive assistant, we probably know the name, Sean Desai. And of course, Chase Blackburn. That's a blast from the past. He's a special teams coordinator now.
Okay. Is that maybe that I'm too young to remember that name?
So Chase Blackburn, he was a former linebacker for the Giants. He was there from 2005 to 2012. Gotcha. He won 2 Super Bowl titles for the Giants, both against the Patriots. He was
11.
I think like he had a. I think like he was. I think he played a lot of free agency. He played a lot more on special teams, and he was like all right. But gotcha. I think, but now that he's now with special teams, maybe it can help rebuild from being dead last according to DVOA in special teams. No one has ever done that yet.
Hey, that was us. Packers were dead last.
What did you do? Y'all hired
Rich Bisaccia.
And good things happen. So with that being said, I mean, there are a lot of personal changes that they had to make. But the draft, how did they do this? I thought this was pretty cool. So they got Jared Verse, the great defensive end from Florida State, and I thought I would pick number 19. I'm guessing the Packers wanted him. He's a good bull rusher, but not like an Aaron Donald type.
If he were to fall, then yes, I think they were looking at drafting Jared Verse because we sometimes go best player available, and he would have been the best player available there. So
yeah, and also and in the second round, I thought this was really cool. They got Braden Fisk, his teammate, defensive tackle from Florida State, with a trade with Carolina. And the cool video I saw on the LA Rams is they were trying to hurry, like before they were making the pick, they tried to get Jared Verse to run to escape rush hour, which is hard to do in LA.
Yeah.
And make the call saying, "Hey, what's up, man?" I thought that was the most epic thing ever. And then with a couple of third round picks, they got Blake Corum, running back from Michigan. I love this pick. I hate that he's not with our respective teams. Because if you look at Blake Corum, he may be undersigned, but oh my god, he can run. He can bull run.
Yeah.
If you want case an example, look at the Michigan Look at the Michigan championship season with
Yep.
Blake Corum.
Yep.
Case closed. And then they also got Cam Kitchens. I think he was like our top 4, top 5 safety in our
Before the combine happened. So
oh god, yeah,
yeah.
that was bad with Miami. And then they traded some picks and for a 5th round they got Brennan Jackson, defensive end from Washington State, more like a depth piece, more like to help on that depth piece. And then 6th round in their 6th round they got Tyler Davis, defensive tackle from Clemson, Joshua Carthy, kicker from Stanford. I thought that was interesting.
Mhm.
And then they got Jordan Whittington from UT. Tell me about him.
Yeah, so he was a good wide receiver for us, I believe. He was another outside wide receiver. He was more of like the possession wide receiver, opposite of Xavier Worthy. Didn't have necessarily the speed that Xavier Worthy had, but he has the hands ability, and the ability to go up and make the reception. If you look at some of his splash plays, it's all jumping up and possessing the catch there. So he doesn't necessarily have the best route running ability, which is why he went all the way down in the 6th round. But he's got a good size, 6'1", 202 pounds, and obviously he's going to be behind Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp and all of them, but he would be a good option for them on the side opposing to Puka Nacua. If Puka Nacua is, the X receiver, Cooper Kupp is, let's say they move Cooper Kupp in the slot, then Jordan Whittington could be a nice complementary piece on the other side, to maybe potentially replace Demarcus Robinson, who they just signed, right? Demarcus Robinson's 29 years old, but Jordan Whittington was drafted to replace him, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much. And then there are 2 other picks. And then the last 6th round pick they got was Bo Limmer from Arkansas. Good say. I mean, I don't know much about him, but he definitely has to be a good backup. In their current offensive lineman. I mean, they have Steve Avila as their starting. And they have also Alec Lindstrom, Mike McAllister, Bo Limmer, now being involved in the mix. It's gonna be like how for depth pieces and probably to probably analyze him during the preseason. And then of course their last pick they got KT Leviston, offensive tackle from Kansas State, which is why we build through the trenches.
Yep. They started with the defensive side and then they ended with the offensive side.
Very fitting.
Yeah, because they needed both.
Right. And with that, we got to look at some season expectations. It's going to be very, very tough because right now, I wanted to talk about the last thing that they should try and not do, which was to not get injured, but damn it, they already jinxed themselves.
Puka.
But I'm thinking like it all depends if Cooper Kupp, Matt Stafford, and yes, maybe Tyler Higbee, people will say, are healthy.
Mm-hmm.
If those 3 are healthy and they can get a strong running game going, I mean, you got Blake Corum. You got to use the man.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe Kyron Williams. And of course, only use Boston Scott when you're playing against the Giants. That is for sure. I think then and then with the defense under Chris Shula, I have to see how it looks. But I think you can easily make it to 10 wins because Matt Stafford is such a good QB, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can compete for an NFC wildcard spot, maybe 1 playoff win. It depends upon who you're playing.
Right. And I guess what you said, the biggest factor for them is health. Getting that offensive line healthy, especially for Matt Stafford, because you have 3 of your starting offensive line out, especially on the blind side, and both tackles being questionable. So it's significant news for them to overcome, along with Puka Nacua. They need help. They need injury help. And if they don't get it, then I am not sure what else you could do there.
Yeah.
I don't really see them winning more than 1 playoff game if they don't remain healthy.
Right. I mean, they can give a run for their money, but I mean, like I have them going 10-7. They'll probably beat the Cards twice. Possibly the Saints because Derek Carr is mid.
Yes.
Pats because Pats is a question mark. Jets, it all depends upon Aaron Rodgers if he's healthy or
Mhm.
not. And then Raiders are just raidering. Bears, Vikings, rookie QBs. They win against the Dolphins, and of course they'll split with the Sea Chickens, which are
Yes,
coming
as
out.
they always do.
But of course their losses. One of their losses is to Philly because
Mhm.
we're better than them. But
Okay.
I think but honestly, my Shandar play of the year, I think this is really hard for me to pick because but then again, I feel like the most important player on that team is Matt Stafford.
Mhm.
He has to be healthy. If he is healthy and this offense is clicking, he's the captain of that ship.
Mhm.
If he gets hurt, they're not going to the playoffs.
Yep. No, accurate. All right. So who is your Shandar player of the year then?
Matt Stafford.
Oh,
I,
okay. Gotcha. All right. All right. So, well, you're saying they end up beating the Sea Chickens for week 18. Let's talk about them Sea Chickens, right? Let's see if they can actually beat the Rams this year. um, before we start about how they're going to do this year, let's recap last year. Last season of Pete Carroll. That's right. Last season of Pete Carroll, one of the most legendary coaches of all time in NFL history, Pete Carroll was let go at the end of this year. Why? Because this was a mid-season, ridiculously mid, right? They had a 9-8 record. That is the definition of a mid-season, as we talked about with the Saints. Same thing here. Geno Smith,
mid.
mid. He was good, but mid when compared to other teams. And it really ended with a whimper. Honestly, yeah. It was, if you're a Seahawks fan, you knew that the time was coming to an end. You thought that they would go out with a bang, maybe making the playoffs, maybe make some noise in the playoffs, but nah. As is usual with beautiful things, they don't die with a bang, but with a whimper. So in this situation for the Seahawks, the last season of Pete Carroll, offense was it was decent. They were 10th overall, sixth best passing DVOA defense, but their running game is what killed them. 18th. And it wasn't really any of the coaching staff, right? It wasn't the scheme, it wasn't Geno Smith, it was that offensive line. 25th in adjusted line yards. Just not good enough to create a successful running game. Their running backs were pretty good, 15th or like somewhere middle of the park in terms of running back yards. But yeah, this offensive line was not up to the standard for producing a good, quality, consistent running game. And it showed. It really showed. Yeah. So while Geno was successful in Shane Waldron's offense, they just did not produce a more consistent running game, and that's why they ended up, not succeeding well. And they ended up they were they were actually 28th in rushing yards per game, 92.9, and consequently, because they couldn't, create a run game that was complementary to the pass game that they had in terms of DVOA metrics, they could not score 21 points per game. That just was 17th on the entire year. So, yeah, it ended up being a mid-season. And while the offense was a pretty efficient offense, especially from the passing standpoint, their defense really it really hampered them. 28th overall DVOA, 28th in pass, 25th against the rush. And the
Hearing this,
secondary was just awful.
hearing this really makes me frustrated.
Why?
How the hell did the Eagles lose to this team? I'm about to have PTSD by the end of this episode, man.
Yep.
That's for sure.
Yep.
But the only bright spot I have to say about this team was Devin Witherspoon.
Yes.
He shows promise.
He shows promise. He's a lockdown corner for them. But besides that, if you look at their depth chart last year, they did not have like Tariq Woolen, Reek Woolen, he showed a lot of promise 2 years ago, right? In 2022, that year, that secondary for the Seattle Seahawks was really promising, but Reek Woolen, outside of man coverage, he fell apart. Honestly, he didn't have the coverage ability to be able to pass on wide receivers or to be able to cover them. He wasn't able to use his speed that much, and it just showed up in their secondary stats as well. 7th highest in adjusted net yards per attempt, and top 10 in terms of passing yards allowed, and 4th highest in missed tackle rate, and in total missed tackles. And that's why this secondary really failed. You saw that with Jamal Adams, which is why he was let go. You saw that with Quandre Diggs, which is why he was let go. And now you look at their secondary, it's Devin Witherspoon, who they're projecting to be nickel, who I think should be playing outside corner for them. Trey Brown.
Wow. I don't like that move.
Yeah.
Witherspoon on nickel is a wrong thing. We expected in when they did the draft recap last year, he's a guy who can play outside at his very best.
Exactly. So I'm surprised that he's not the outside corner for them. So yeah, that it's interesting, but I will say there is one reason why they have hope for this secondary to improve. And I'll talk about it in a little bit. First, it's not because of the players that they brought in. They did bring in a couple of influential pieces. George Fant, some right tackle depth, 32 years old from Houston, who used to play for Miami on a 2-year, $9 million deal. Again, some depth. Strong safety, Rayshon Jenkins from Jacksonville. Again, some more depth on a 2-year, $12 million deal. Jerome Baker on a 1-year deal from Miami for $7 million. And Connor Williams, a center guard from Miami on a 1-year deal. And Laken Tomlinson, again, another guard from the Jets on a 1-year deal. So they brought in some offensive line depth. They brought in Jerome Baker to replace, who I will talk about, the player that they lost, and that was Jordan Brooks. Basically, Jordan Brooks went Miami and Seattle swapped outside linebackers. Jordan Brooks for Jerome Baker. And Jordan Brooks was not cheap. 3 years, $26.2 million deal. He brings some youth to that Miami team that we're going to talk about in a little bit in an upcoming episode. But Jerome Baker, I think, was a decent pickup for Seattle, just a stopgap for the future. But yeah, it's really the players that they re-signed is the big one. They retained Leonard Williams on a massive deal, 3 years, $64 million. Noah Fant, the tight end, remains in Seattle on a 2-year, $21 million deal. Julian Love signed a 3-year, $33 million deal, free safety. So he's now their starting free safety to replace. They have Quandre Diggs last year, and he actually showed out. I think he was another promising secondary player from last year and 2 years ago. And they retained Tyler Lockett on a 2-year, $29.66 million. So apt extension for Tyler Lockett, considering he's like a top 25 wide receiver in the league. So yeah, they mainly paid out their own players. Um, I think it's good that they retained some of their key talents, especially Noah Fant, Leonard Williams, Julian Love, and Tyler Lockett. Like they are necessary for the for any potential success for the Sea Chickens, but they were kind of underwhelming in free agency, and especially with the amount of players that they lost, amount of starters that they lost. They lost Damian Lewis, a really good young guard, to Carolina. They lost Colby Parkinson, another good young tight end. They lost another tight end, Will Disley, who was their starter tight end in several packages. Um, and he was like their inline wide tight end as well. So he was the one who's gonna who was playing that Travis Kelce role as well in several plays. So they lost both of their tight ends. They lost their starting strong side linebacker Jordan Brooks. They lost their starting guard and Damian Lewis. They lost Bobby Wagner, the probably one of the most recognizable players in all of Seahawks history, from their middle linebacking spot, who at the age of 34 years old was still producing. He still had like 120 plus tackles last year. He goes to Washington. They lost Drew Lock, backup quarterback. They lost Quandre Diggs. They lost Devin Bush. They lost Jamal Adams. So they lost a ton of veteran and starter experience. And they didn't really replace that well with the pickups that they had in free agency. And even when you look at the draft, they had some great players, especially in the first two picks. Brian Murphy, one of the best defensive players in the entire draft last year. You know, from a star-studded defense from obviously Texas. They got him from the 16th overall pick. He's going to be their main pass rush experience up the middle, and that really solidifies their their front. I guess like 4-5. If you have Jerron Reed as nose tackle, Brian Murphy on the left side edge, Leonard Williams on the right side edge, and you have Uchenna Nwosu and Boy Mafe as your other outside edge rushers in their 3-4 scheme that they run now. It's very good that they reinforced that D line with Byron Murphy. They also tried to reinforce their offensive line with Christian Haynes, guard from UConn, in the 3rd round. But after that, it was they got a decent depth piece in Satoa Lumea, guard from Utah, in the 6th round. Nehemiah Pritchett, cornerback, Auburn, in the 5th round. But other than that, I think it was a weak draft. They probably got like 2 starters in Byron Murphy and Christian Haynes. And if you look at the free agency, they got depth, yes, but the players that they lost, they didn't properly replace them. And while they did retain some of their in-house talent, I think they did get worse in terms of the depth and the quality of talent that they had before. Even though they overhauled the coaching staff, I still think, and I'll get to this in a little bit, before I actually give my full-on season prediction. Let's talk about who they actually brought in, and that was a really, really good Baltimore defensive coordinator, and that's Mike McDonald, who also, surprise, was the Michigan defensive coordinator in 2021 and was the Baltimore linebackers coach in 2018 through 2020 and the DB coach in 2017. So he has been through that. So you know how Kyle Shanahan has the Shanahan offensive tree?
Right?
You have the Harbaugh defensive tree now. You got
Harbaugh
Jim
versus
Harbaugh,
Shanahan,
Mike
man.
McDonald, and that goes all the way up to like Rex Ryan If you actually take a look at that,
Yeah.
the tree of coaches that the original Baltimore Ravens from 2000 created, right? They
Mhm.
created all of these massive list of coaches. So Mike McDonald is now the head coach. Ryan Grubb was the Washington UW offensive coordinator from 2022 to 2023. Last year, when UW beat Texas in the playoffs with Michael Penix and Roma Dunze, Jalen Pogue, Jalen McMillan, all of those people, he was their offensive coordinator. Created a very successful offensive scheme in college for Michael Penix to succeed in. So yeah, they got him. And then they got for their defensive coordinator position, Aiden Durday, who is the Dallas defensive line coach from
Interesting.
2021 to 2023. So I think that's a very good pickup, especially since they made a significant emphasis on fortifying that defensive line. They bring in a defensive line minded defensive coordinator. So that's one thing that they're sincerely going to target next year, and that is the pass rush. They are going to harass the QB, and I think that's going to be the main plan for them, because if you look at the defensive DV not DVOA metrics, sorry, adjusted line yards metrics, and you look at their actual sack percentage or the amount of sacks that they produced, it was middle of the pack, honestly, at 47. Actually, sorry, it was like top 15. So it was good, but they definitely could have improved a little bit more. And then if you look at the big thing was their rush defense, like 20th in the league, 22nd in the league. And yeah, it they definitely needed to reinforce that defensive line, and that's exactly what they did. So having a defensive line minded defensive coordinator, especially with Mike McDonald coming in with the way that he helped the Ravens secondary become one of the best like shutdown units last year. Um, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. I think they will definitely introduce a lot more blitz packages to harass the QB even more, because if you can create pressures in the backfield, then that's going to allow you. There's going to be an easier job for the secondary, and the secondary is the one that needs to be improved still. Right? They got a couple of good players, but I don't really trust that depth. Now you do trust the depth of the D line, which is why they went out and they got a D line minded defensive coordinator. So that was a good change. I love the coaching changes. Mike McDonald is a perfect replacement for Pete Carroll. He's going to continue that hard nosed Seattle mentality of just harassing the opposing quarterbacks and the opposing offenses, aka the Legion of Boom. Not saying that Seattle, this current defensive iteration, is going to be Legion of Boom, because they had Hall of Fame worthy players, but they will bring that mindset here.
Mhm.
Now, even if they do, I don't trust this offense. I don't trust the defense to pull victories, to generate victories. They might keep the offense in the game by reducing the amount of points allowed, but I don't think that they're going to completely, take over games, which is why um I predict them going 9-8. I don't predict them going into the playoffs. And it's a wait and see. I really need to see. They don't have the quarterback. Geno Smith
Mhm.
is a good QB, but
Not
he's
great.
not one that's going to deliver them to the promised land. That's for sure. And I don't trust this offensive line depth. I don't, even though they did make some moves, I don't trust the offensive coordinator. We haven't seen, he doesn't have that much of NFL experience. He has a lot of college experience, but the NFL is a completely different game from college. So Yeah, it is. It is a necessary to see more improvement from the offensive side before I can say, okay, the Seahawks are back. They can remove the Sea Chickens tag now. But until the offense can be sustained, especially since they lost Shane Waldron, um, I don't really know what to expect from the Seahawks. I think their defense is going to be better. Their pass defense is going to be better. But if the offense is unknown, then I don't really think that they're going to be a playoff team. So we'll see. They definitely have the potential. They have some. They have obviously they have great weapons. They got a decent O line. Um, Quarterback is okay. Running backs, again, weapons are really good, but we just have to see what this scheme produces. Shandar Player of the Year, it's got to be Brian Murphy. I don't think. I think especially in Mike McDonald's scheme, with the depth that they have, um, in the D line, he's going to get a lot of action, like Justin Matabuke did for the Ravens last year. So
Oh yeah.
I think he's going to have a spectacular year this year.
Nice. Well, it's definitely going to be interesting how the Seahawks, aka the Sea Chickens, do. But now,
Mhm.
last but not least, this team does a lot of
Your
wah.
favorite team, Rekshak.
Oh no, the team that's been cursed.
Yeah. Yeah.
The team that I cursed that didn't win the Super Bowl. Oh, like the San Francisco 49ers. It's
Hmm.
correction, the 49ers. But 2023 season can be recapped like this. Oh my god, the Niners are so good. They won the NFC. They dominated. They ran through. Of course, they beat my Eagles. I'm still pissed at Debo and all that. They won their division NFC championship, and you lost where it mattered the most. You pathetic fools. You lost to the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is the father of
Uh,
your children. And how about, and of course, cry, Niners, cry on your road to misery. Whine, Debo, whine. You got your ass kicked. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. You are mad. You had nothing, so keep the Eagles' name out your mouth. Whine, whiners, whine on your road to misery. WHINERS, whiners. Yeah.
Original rendition, aka Rakshak Iyengar. He is going to produce this officially, posted on Spotify for everybody to enjoy. Every non 49ers 40 Winers fan to enjoy. And I think Rakshak, we're gonna make $1 million out of this song.
Oh, oh yeah.
License it to the
This
NFL.
definitely beats Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Because Niners, you're not like Chiefs. You're not like Chiefs. You're not like Chiefs. Okay, moving on, other than the Niners still suck. They they only worked out well because they decided to use the run game more. Kyle Shanahan being Kyle Shanahan, and the Steve Wilkes defense. Hell, they were number 2 in overall DVOA. I mean, if you look at offensive DVOA, they were number 1. Defensive rank, they were number 4. So, I mean, there's not that much of a big change, but when it mattered the most, they shot themselves in the bed. Just beautiful.
Mhm.
And of course, for those that are explaining why, because I had placed the curse on the San Francisco 49ers. And by the way, this is an infinity curse. They are still cursed. They will not win a Super Bowl this year or the next upcoming years.
Mhm.
So with that being said, they did make some free agency moves. Who did they signed a bunch of players and they let go a bunch of players. But some of the very important players that I thought that they signed, um I'm only going to go through some of them, not all of them, because it's too much. Some of the big names like Leonard Floyd from the Bills, 2-year deal. Devondre Campbell from the Packers, really upset about that one.
No, not really. He was important, but he was not athletic towards the end, especially when he came off of his injury.
Ah.
I'm glad we let him go.
And then and then they managed to get like some 1-year deals. I mean, Josh Dobbs, Pasternaut is the backup.
Mhm.
They did let go Sam Darnold being one of them. They also got some good cornerback because I think like with I know that they had some secondary issues, especially if Travarius Ward and the other player I forgot who their other corner is, but sometimes both of them they would enter like midway in the season without any corners to work with. So I mean, they were able to get excuse me. I mean, they were able to get Rocky Sin from the Ravens, which I thought was a good 1-year deal. And also Chase Lucas from the Lions. Probably a lot of depth pieces. Um, and Logan Thomas from the Commanders for like a 1-year deal. That was pretty surprising. And I mean, not that much, except like the big ones being Leonard Floyd, Josh Dobbs, Patrick Taylor, backup running back from the Packers, Rock Essen, good corner, Chris Hubbard from the Titans, good offensive line depth, and of course we have to talk about who they let go. I'm going to be very quick. Randy Gregory, defensive end, he goes to the Bucks. Chase Young going to the Saints. Sam Darnold, he's with the Vikings. He had such a big loss. Javon Kinlaw, he goes.
Huge loss.
It's a huge loss, man.
Huge loss to them. He was such an important piece in their run defense. I'm surprised they let him go.
Yeah, Chase Young. I mean, yeah.
Well, I mean, I meant like Javon Kinlaw.
Javon Kinlaw. He's with the Jets. Sebastian Joseph Day, Oren Burks, Cleveland, Farrell. They found other teams, but they did re-sign John Feliciano for a 1-year contract. Kevin Givens, definitely well earned. Ray McLeod to the Falcons for a 2-year deal. I thought that was that it was like, wow, that actually happened. And then they also re-signed Demetrius Flanagan-Flowers because of that linebacker depth. Logan Ryan, he's apparently on the he's still on free agency. So anyone needing a safety, you got someone available. Juwan Jennings got re-signed for a 1-year deal, but everyone is talking about this person. What's happening with Brandon Ayuk? Where is
rumor time?
So
rumor time.
So
go ahead.
We've heard news that the Niners agreed to work with the Patriots and the Commanders. I believe those two teams.
Yeah.
On a trade contract.
Yes.
But go ahead, Anand. Do you have more details on this?
So they were looking at the Patriots, but unfortunately, Brandon Ayuk did not want to go to New England, and instead, they're looking at Pittsburgh. So yeah, so we have multiple opportunities for Brandon Ayuk now. He does not want Patriots, even though they had a verbal agreement with the 49ers and they were hammering out trade deals and details with New England regarding I think they were going to send out Kendrick Bourne as their wide receiver along with some other draft compensation for Brandon Ayuk, but Brandon Ayuk did not want to go with New England, and instead he's looking for the Steelers. But the 49ers are not interested in the Steelers' offers. So it
That's
seems
interesting.
like this is just a tug of war, basically, of who's going to get what they want. Are the 49ers going to get the draft compensation or trade compensation they want from the team? Or is Brandon Ayuk going to get the contract that he wants?
Right. It's a
Yeah.
very. I think. I think. Right. I think like almost every podcast that we do, until he doesn't get signed, they may be on a Brandon Ayuk watch
Mhm.
party, or an impromptu version. And I also want to. And this is like non NFL related, but I just got some breaking the Makidar news from the Olympics. Noah Lyles is out for the rest of the Olympics. He's been diagnosed with COVID-19.
Mm. No, man.
He
Oh,
won't compete, but sucks,
at
man.
least he won a gold before he went out.
Gold and a bronze.
Exactly.
And but like with that being said, some of the other extensions that I really also want to talk about, it'll be really quick. The biggest one was re-signing Christian McCaffrey, 2-year, $38 million contract extension with the Niners. I thought that really helps out with Brock Purdy, and it makes more of this the dynamic Kyle Shanahan um motion style of offense, more of this West Coast mix.
Oh,
What's up?
breaking news
What?
regarding Brandon Ayuk.
Oh, what's up?
Not anything official, but another rumor is the 49ers are looking for a potential 3-team trade a la NBA style,
Oh,
according to Mike
whoa.
Garafolo.
Okay. Okay.
So, they're looking at the Steelers, but the Steelers don't have a receiver to send back to the 49ers because the 49ers are looking for player compensation as well instead of just draft compensation.
Right.
So yeah, it's they're nosing around. So this is what he has said on the Rich Eisen show. Garofalo says, I quote, I have been told that regarding a possible 3-team trade, and they're nosing around the league. And the problem is nobody's really got an excess of receivers that can give you that caliber of guy you're looking for. So it is a rumor. It is out there. And obviously they are looking at all options. I'm sure at the end of the day, I don't think the Niners are going to be this stupid to let go of a really, really good wide receiver.
Right. But the issue is that he's asking for more money, like because he's almost like to a level of Deebo Samuels.
Yeah.
But the issue with Ayuk is that he's more of the traditional receiver type. Like he's not involved in jet sweep motions. I mean, although once in a while, but Deebo is like almost every 5 plays. You see Deebo coming in motion and running a jet sweep counter. And I mean, you can name a bunch of plays like that, but you rarely see Ayuk more like a possession receiver catch than burn you with speed or something like that.
But he's got really good route running ability, and
definitely
he is a top 15 receiver. But yeah,
100%.
we'll keep you guys updated on the latest happenings. Actually,
Yeah.
let's proceed.
So with that, moving, we could talk more about like the other players, but there's like a lot happening with the Niners, so we only summarized the big ones, and that will be it. But with that, they did make some coaching changes. Steve Wilkes, he got fired unnecessarily, so I didn't like that. So who did they replace him with? Their new defensive coach. I think I'm still trying to make sense of this. It's Nick Sorensen.
Mm-hmm.
He was the Niners defense. He was part of the Niners defensive assistant from 2022 until now. Mainly in the pass game specialist and Nichols corner. So basically you upgraded your secondary coach to be your defensive coordinator with Steve Wilkes being gone. And then they moved Clay Kubiak into the offensive passing game specialist, son of Gary Kubiak, and they hired Brandon Staley as the assistant head coach and defensive
mastermind there.
God.
Defensive mastermind.
And another one that I thought was very interesting was getting KJ Wright,
Mhm.
former linebacker from the Seahawks, and but don't and mind you, Super Bowl champion,
Part of
um,
Legion.
as,
Boom.
as the defensive quality control coach. So I thought that was interesting. But with that being said, let's go to the draft really quickly. Their first overall pick at the 31 with number 31, they surprised us by getting Ricky Pearsall, wide receiver from Florida. I
It's
mean,
like they knew.
it's like that means, and of course, which is why Brian and I
Brandon Ayuk,
probably want to
yeah.
go one out because
Yeah.
why the hell did you draft this guy over me? Well, I've
Mhm.
been working my ass off for you guys. Then they trade their second round pick for the Chiefs for some other picks. They got Renardo Green, corner from Florida State, Dominic Puny from offensive tackle from Kansas. So some good additional pieces. One for the line, one for that secondary to help out with Travarius Ward.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, Travarius Ward and Jair Brown, and I found the guy, Ambry Thomas, and Diamador Lenore. Oh my goodness, I went the entire episode without knowing the other one, Diamador Lenore and Travarius Ward. Okay, continuing on. Then some picks of which I really didn't like.
Yes.
They stole from us. Isaac
Malik was-
Isaac Guerendo from Louisville. Fourth and John
Yeah.
was extremely high on him.
Mhm.
And Malik Mustafa, safety from Wake
Yes.
Forest. Good.
I really liked him.
And
He
then
was similar to Deadrian DDT.
Adrian Taylor
Yeah.
Adrian Taylor Damerson. Nice. Yeah, but they also got Jacob Counting, wide receiver from Arizona. So
Hmm.
I mean, all right. Then after trading a bunch of picks back and back, they managed to get Jared Kingston, offensive guard from USC, and Tatum Bethune, linebacker from Florida
Bethune,
State.
yeah.
So I mean, you're going to be pairing him with Devondre Campbell, Demetrius Flanagan-Files, Dre Greenlaw, Zeke Turner, and Fred Warner. So not that much for him, but I mean, it's there. Season
Special teams player,
expectations.
probably.
The season expectations, we're probably going to know the Niners are going to beat the easy teams. They're probably going to most likely going to go 13-4. They'll make it to the NFC Championship game, which is why it's an asterisk because they ain't going to do shit. They're not going to win. They're not going to win the championship game. They're not even going to go to the Super Bowl this year because teams would have already figured out how to play against them. And then, which is why they're 13-4. They're going to lose at the NFC Championship game. And with that, my Shandar Player of the Year. This is very tough because there's so many talented players. This is why I hate the Niners so much because there's so many good players.
There are
There are too many. It's like how many
DMC, Brock
do you
Purdy, George
need?
Kittle, Debo, Nick Bosa, Halanoa Hafunga coming back from injury. Alrighty.
And with that, I think, but again, Shandar Player of the Year, easily CMC. Christian McCaffrey.
Okay.
I would think if I had to go offensive side, it has to be Christian McCaffrey because he is the offense for that team. Brock Purdy's offense only works when CMC gets it going. Defensive side,
we saw that last
you
year.
got to go defensive side easily. Fred Warner, he
Yeah.
is a champion of that defense. So
Mhm.
I honestly have two Shandar Players of the Year, but if I had to split between the one, easily it's Christian McCaffrey.
Gotcha. All right. So now, since we've talked about each individual team, let's talk about the entire division holistically. For me, the 49ers are going to win the division. They are easily the best team in the division, in the NFC, second to third best team in the AFC overall, in the entire league overall. So I think they're going to go 12-5. I think the Rams are going to go 10-7. They're going to edge out the Seahawks in the last game. To get into the wild card spot, the 7th wild card spot. That's what I'm predicting. And the Seahawks will lose to 9-8. Heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching loss, just like they deserve. The Sea Chickens don't deserve success. They only deserve misery. And this is the best form of misery you can give to an NFL team. just bad enough to barely miss the playoffs. That's the misery you want for a team. Not bad enough to get a good draft position, but just bad enough to miss the playoffs.
And we have a new contender for player hater of the year. This is Mr. Dave Chappelle's Mr. Unansung Gundy. I have the nominee for this year's player hater.
And then the Cardinals, I think 7-10 is a good record for them. And then for the Niners, okay, I have them just as you, going to the NFC Championship game and losing, but to the Packers. Packers go to the Super Bowl, baby. Packers go to the Super Bowl. All right, that's it for me. What about you?
Well, I have the Niners winning, of course, but they go 13-4.
Okay.
Or 12-5. I mean, they could easily throw away one game because they've already clinched the NFC West. Rams go 10-7. Basically another 3-3 season because again, the injury bug is everywhere. It's contagious. Seahawks, they could go 9-8, 10-7. It all depends upon that one game proceeding and but they should try not to tank. That's what it is. Cardinals, they go 7-10. They may have they could try and get one win at least or steal a win in the NFC West. They could play spoiler. I'll be very shocked that they get a winning season. But I had the Niners going to as I said, I had the Niners going to the NFC Championship game, a conference championship game, and losing to my Eagles this year.
Oh, okay. Eagles are gonna go to the Super Bowl. All right.
Hey, we gotta talk about this
here. Homerism in full force.
Which is why I'm hoping, and I want to really beat the dole on this one because I think it'd be good for the content. I want the NFC Championship game to be between the Eagles and the Packers, and we played at a neutral ground, not in Lambeau, not at the Link. We played better at AT&T Stadium.
No, we would still win because that's our second home, bro. We are 6-0 in that stadium.
Either way, Dallas loses, America wins.
Alrighty. Yeah.
Oh no. He's coming again.
So that's gonna be it for us today.
Oh, thank God.
So that's gonna be it for us today. That completes the NFC conference as well. Next episode, we're gonna do the AFC West division, another blow-off division, but maybe a couple surprises. We'll talk about it later. So yeah, we're gonna hit you guys, and thank you guys for joining us on this episode. If you guys have a question or if you guys want to leave a review, please leave a review at one of the 4 podcast platforms that we host this podcast on: Apple, Google, Spotify, and Pocket Casts, or send us an email at nflmasala@gmail.com, spelled as NFLMASALA@gmail.com. Or Rakshak?
They can also find us on our Instagram / Twitter or X page, which is all lowercase at NFL MASALA 2022. And also, we're also on YouTube.
Yes, sir. We are on YouTube. So like, share, subscribe when we upload this video. Comment on that video. We've already had one comment on the NFC North one. So we've been discussing with the Alliance fan who's predicted that they're going to win the division, but we obviously have other aspirations there. So let us know what your thoughts are on any of these episodes. And thank you guys again for listening to us, for watching us, and helping us grow. So we're going to hit you guys with the signature outro. Go Pack, go.
And fly, Eagles, fly. Take care and have a good night.